Hello, and welcome to another inspiring episode here at English in Mind, the podcast, where we explore the deeper aspects of language learning and personal growth. I'm so glad you've decided to join me today. If you're someone who wants to not just improve your English, but also build the confidence to truly connect with others through your words, then you're exactly where you need to be. Today, we're diving into something that I believe is absolutely fundamental to your success as a communicator, and that's building unshakable confidence in communication. Now, when I say unshakable confidence, I don't mean the kind of false bravado where you pretend to know everything or where you never feel nervous. No, I'm talking about something much deeper and more authentic. I'm talking about the kind of confidence that allows you to speak your truth, even when your voice trembles. The kind of confidence that lets you make mistakes and keep going. The kind of confidence that comes not from being perfect, but from being real. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you had something important to say, but you held back because you weren't sure if your English was good enough? How many conversations have you avoided because you were afraid of making mistakes? How many opportunities have slipped away because you didn't trust your own voice? If you're nodding along right now, you're definitely not alone. This struggle is something that millions of language learners face every single day, and it's exactly what we're going to address together in this episode. We'll explore what true confidence in communication really means and how it's different from what most people think. We'll talk about why confidence actually matters more than perfect grammar or flawless pronunciation. We'll dive deep into the psychology behind communication confidence, understanding what builds it and what breaks it down. And of course, I'll share practical, actionable strategies that you can start using immediately to build your own unshakable confidence. Along the way, I'll ask you some powerful questions that will help you reflect on your own communication journey. This isn't just about listening passively. This is about transformation. This is about stepping into the confident communicator that you already are deep inside, but maybe haven't fully discovered yet. So take a comfortable breath, settle in, and prepare to shift your perspective on what it means to communicate with confidence. Let's unlock your authentic voice together, right here on English in Mind. What is true confidence in communication? This is a question that deserves our careful attention because I think there's a lot of confusion about what confidence actually looks like. When most people think about confident communication, they picture someone who never hesitates, never makes mistakes, and always has the perfect words ready. They imagine someone who speaks loudly, dominates conversations, and never shows any sign of uncertainty or vulnerability. But here's what I've learned after years of studying communication and working with thousands of English learners. That image of confidence, it's not just wrong, it's actually harmful because it sets an impossible standard that nobody, not even native speakers, can consistently meet. Real confidence in communication is something entirely different. True confidence starts with self-acceptance. It's the ability to show up as yourself, imperfections and all, and still trust that your message has value. It's knowing that your accent doesn't make your ideas less important. It's understanding that a grammatical mistake doesn't invalidate your thoughts. It's the deep knowledge that communication is not a performance, it's a connection. Let me share a story that illustrates this beautifully. I once knew a woman named Maria who came to the United States from Colombia. Her English, was far from perfect. She would often search for words, sometimes switch to Spanish mid-sentence, and her pronunciation was heavily accented. But Maria had something extraordinary. She had genuine confidence. When she spoke, people listened. When she shared her ideas, people were moved. When she told stories, people were captivated. What made Maria so magnetic wasn't her grammar or her vocabulary. It was her authenticity. She spoke from her heart. She wasn't trying to impress anyone or sound like someone she wasn't. She was simply sharing her truth, and that truth resonated with everyone around her. That's what real confidence looks like. Confident communication is also about presence. It's about being fully here in this moment with the person or people you're speaking with. It's not about planning your next sentence while the other person is talking. It's not about worrying about what happened in the last conversation or what might happen in the next one. It's about being completely present to what's happening right now. This kind of presence creates a magnetic quality. When someone is truly present with you, you feel it. You feel seen, heard, and valued. And here's the beautiful thing. When you practice being present with others, you naturally become more confident because you're not stuck in your head worrying about how you sound or what others might think. Another crucial aspect of true confidence is the willingness to be vulnerable. This might sound contradictory at first. How can vulnerability be a sign of confidence? But think about it. It takes tremendous courage to admit when you don't understand something. It takes strength to ask for clarification. It takes confidence to say, I'm still learning, but here's what I think. When you embrace your status as a learner, when you're open about your journey, something magical happens. People don't judge you for your imperfections. Instead, they admire your courage. They respect your honesty. They're drawn to your authenticity. Because everyone, even native speakers, is on a learning journey of some kind. True confidence also means focusing on connection rather than perfection. When your primary goal is to connect with another human being, to understand and be understood, the pressure to be perfect naturally fades away. You stop obsessing over whether you use the right preposition and start focusing on whether your message is getting through. You stop worrying about your accent and start caring about whether you're making the other person feel heard and valued. Let me ask you something. Think about the most confident communicators you know. Are they the ones who never make mistakes? Or are they the ones who make mistakes and keep going? Are they the ones who sound perfect? Or are they the ones who sound genuine? I'm willing to bet it's the latter. So as we continue this journey together, I want you to start shifting your definition of confidence. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask questions. It's not about impressing others. It's about connecting with them. That's where true confidence in communication begins. Now let's talk about why confidence matters more than perfection, because this is something that can completely transform your approach to communication. We live in a world that often seems to worship perfection. Social media shows us highlight reels. Educational systems often penalize mistakes rather than celebrating effort. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that anything less than perfect isn't good enough. But here's what research and real-world experience tell us. In communication, confidence trumps perfection every single time. And there are several important reasons why this is true. First, confident communication creates trust. When someone speaks with genuine confidence, even if their language isn't perfect, we trust them more. Why? because confidence signals authenticity. It shows that the person believes in what they're saying. It demonstrates that they have conviction behind their words. Think about political leaders, business executives, or teachers who have influenced you. I guarantee it wasn't their perfect grammar that moved you. It was their conviction, their passion, their belief in their message. On the other hand, when someone speaks with perfect grammar but no confidence, something feels off. Their words might be technically correct, but they don't land with impact. They don't inspire trust or action. Perfect words delivered without confidence often feel hollow scripted or insincere. Second, confident communication is contagious. When you speak with confidence, you give others permission to do the same. You create a safe space for authentic expression. You model what it looks like to be real, to be human, to be vulnerable. This creates deeper, more meaningful connections. I remember working with a student named Ahmed, who was terrified of speaking in meetings at his job. His English was actually quite good grammatically, but his fear was so obvious that his colleagues started to doubt his competence. We worked together, not on perfecting his grammar, but on building his confidence. We practiced breathing techniques, worked on his mindset, and helped him connect with his sense of purpose at work. Within a few months, Ahmed was not only participating in meetings, he was leading them. His grammar hadn't dramatically improved, but his presence had transformed completely. His colleagues began to see him as a leader because he finally saw himself as one. That's the power of confidence over perfection. Third, confident communication is more persuasive. When we need to influence others, whether in personal relationships or professional settings, confidence is what moves people to action. Perfect grammar might impress, but confidence inspires. Think about the last time someone convinced you to try something new or change your mind about something. Was it their flawless sentence structure that persuaded you? Or was it their passionate belief in what they were saying? Confident communication also makes you more resilient in difficult conversations. When you're focused on being perfect, any mistake or unexpected turn in the conversation can throw you off completely. But when you're focused on confident connection, you can adapt, adjust, and keep moving forward no matter what happens. Let me share another story. I once observed a business presentation where two people were pitching similar ideas. The first presenter had clearly rehearsed extensively. His slides were perfect, his pronunciation was flawless, and he never stumbled over a word. But something was missing. The presentation felt lifeless, mechanical. The second presenter was obviously nervous. She mispronounced a few words, her slides had a small typo, and she even lost her train of thought once and had to pause to collect herself. But here's what made all the difference: she believed deeply in her idea. Her passion was evident. Her confidence in her solution was unshakable, even if her delivery wasn't perfect. Guess which presenter won the contract? The second one. Because the decision makers didn't just buy her product, they bought her belief in it. They trusted her confidence more than they were impressed by the first presenter's perfection. This doesn't mean that improving your language skills isn't important. Of course it is. Good communication skills help you express yourself more clearly and effectively. But here's the key insight. While you're developing those skills, while you're on that journey of improvement, you don't have to wait to communicate with confidence. You can start today with whatever level of English you have right now. Perfect English without confidence is like a beautiful car without an engine. It might look impressive, but it won't take you anywhere. Confident communication, even with imperfect English, is like a reliable car that might not be the newest model, but will definitely get you where you need to go. So I want to challenge you right now. What if you decided to prioritize connection over perfection? What if you chose to focus on being understood rather than sounding perfect? What if you gave yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes, to learn as you go? How might that change your entire communication experience? The psychology of communication. Confidence is fascinating and incredibly important for anyone who wants to build genuine confidence in their ability to connect with others. Understanding what happens in our minds when we communicate can help us work with our psychology rather than against it. Let's start with what confidence actually is at a psychological level. Confidence isn't the absence of fear or doubt. Many people think that confident communicators never feel nervous or uncertain, but that's simply not true. Confidence is feeling the fear and speaking anyway. It's acknowledging the doubt and moving forward regardless. It's about your relationship with uncertainty, not the elimination of it. Think about this for a moment. Even the most experienced public speakers often feel nervous before important presentations. Even native speakers sometimes struggle to find the right words in crucial conversations. The difference isn't that confident people don't experience these feelings. The difference is how they interpret and respond to them. Our brain has a built-in threat detection system that's designed to keep us safe. When we're about to communicate, especially in situations that feel important or risky, this system can activate. It might interpret a conversation as a threat to our reputation, our relationships, or our sense of self-worth. When this happens, we might experience physical symptoms like a racing heart, sweaty palms, or a tight throat. But here's what's crucial to understand. These physical sensations don't have to mean that we're not ready to communicate effectively. In fact, some level of activation can actually improve our performance by making us more alert and focused. The key is learning to interpret these sensations differently. Confident communicators have learned to reframe their nervous energy. Instead of thinking, "I'm so nervous, I'm going to mess this up," they think, "I'm excited this energy will help me be more engaging." Instead of interpreting a racing heart as a sign of danger, they see it as their body preparing them to perform at their best. This reframing isn't just positive thinking. It's based on solid neuroscience. Our brains are constantly creating stories about what our physical sensations mean. When we change the story, we literally change our experience. The physical sensations might be the same, but their impact on our confidence and performance can be completely different. Another crucial aspect of communication confidence is our internal dialogue, what psychologists call our self-talk. Most of us have a running commentary in our heads, and unfortunately, for many people, this commentary is far from supportive. It might sound like, "You're going to sound stupid," or "Everyone will notice your mistakes," or "You don't belong here." But confident communicators have learned to become aware of this internal dialogue and to challenge it when necessary. They've developed what psychologists call a growth mindset about communication. Instead of seeing communication skills as fixed traits that they either have or don't have, they see them as abilities that can be developed over time. This mindset shift is profound. When you believe that your communication skills can improve, every interaction becomes a learning opportunity rather than a test. Mistakes become feedback rather than failures. Difficult conversations become chances to practice rather than situations to avoid. The concept of imposter syndrome is also relevant here. Many language learners feel like they're pretending to be competent communicators when they're really not. They worry that others will discover they're fake or not as skilled as they appear. But here's the truth: everyone feels like an imposter, sometimes even native speakers in certain situations. The antidote to imposter syndrome isn't achieving perfection. It's recognizing that everyone is learning and growing, and that's perfectly normal and healthy. When you embrace your identity as a learner, rather than trying to hide it, you paradoxically become more confident and authentic. Our past experiences also play a huge role in our communication confidence. If you've had negative experiences where you were criticized, laughed at, or made to feel embarrassed about your communication, those memories can create what psychologists call limiting beliefs. These are unconscious assumptions about what you're capable of or what will happen if you try to communicate. But here's the good news: our brains are incredibly adaptable. Even deeply ingrained limiting beliefs can be changed through new experiences and conscious effort. Every positive communication experience you have creates new neural pathways that support confidence. Every time you speak up and something good happens, you're literally rewiring your brain for greater confidence. The social aspect of confidence is also important to understand. Humans are social creatures, and we're constantly picking up on social cues from others. When people respond positively to our communication, our confidence grows. When they seem disinterested or critical, our confidence can shrink. But confident communicators have learned not to base their self-worth entirely on others' reactions. They understand that sometimes people are distracted having a bad day or dealing with their own insecurities. They don't take every neutral or negative response personally. They've developed what psychologists call emotional regulation, the ability to manage their emotions and maintain their sense of confidence even when external feedback isn't ideal. Understanding all of this psychology can be incredibly liberating. It helps you realize that the voice in your head telling you that you're not good enough isn't telling you the truth about your abilities. It's just your brain trying to protect you from perceived threats. Once you understand this, you can thank your brain for trying to keep you safe and then choose to move forward with confidence anyway. Breaking through fear and self-doubt is perhaps one of the most important skills you can develop as a communicator, and it's something that requires both understanding and practice. Fear and doubt aren't character flaws or signs of weakness. They're normal human responses to situations that feel uncertain or risky. The goal isn't to eliminate these feelings entirely, but to learn how to move through them gracefully. Let's start by understanding what fear and self-doubt actually are in the context of communication. Fear often shows up as worry about specific outcomes. What if I say something wrong? What if they don't understand me? What if they judge my accent? Self-doubt, on the other hand, is more about questioning your fundamental ability. Maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'll never be confident speaking English. Maybe I should just stay quiet. Both fear and self-doubt can feel overwhelming, but they're actually providing us with valuable information. Fear is often telling us that something matters to us. If you didn't care about connecting with others or expressing yourself effectively, you wouldn't feel afraid. So, in some ways, fear is a sign that you're moving in the right direction toward things that are important to you. Self doubt, while uncomfortable, can also serve a purpose. It can motivate us to prepare, to learn, to grow. The problem comes when fear and doubt become so loud that they paralyze us, or when we let them define what we're capable of. One of the most effective ways to work with fear is to get specific about it. Instead of feeling generally anxious about speaking, try to identify exactly what you're afraid of. Are you afraid of making grammatical mistakes? Are you worried about not being understood? Are you concerned about being judged? Once you can name your specific fears, you can address them more effectively. For example, if you're afraid of making grammatical mistakes, you can remind yourself that native speakers make mistakes too, and that perfect grammar isn't necessary for effective communication. If you're worried about not being understood, you can practice speaking clearly and learn to ask for clarification when needed. If you're concerned about judgment, you can work on choosing supportive environments and people to practice with. Another powerful technique is what psychologists call exposure therapy, but in a gentle, gradual way. Instead of jumping into your most feared communication situation, you can build your confidence step by step. Start with low-stakes conversations where mistakes don't matter much. Practice with supportive friends or family members. Gradually, work your way up to more challenging situations as your confidence grows. I want to share the story of a student I worked with named Lynn. She came to me completely paralyzed by fear of speaking English at work. She had been avoiding meetings, declining presentations, and even eating lunch alone to avoid casual conversations. Her fear had become so intense that it was affecting her job performance and her mental health. We started small, very small. We began with her practicing ordering coffee in English instead of pointing at the menu. Then we moved to making small talk with the cashier. Then to asking questions in low-stakes situations. Each small success built her confidence for the next slightly bigger challenge. It took several months, but eventually, Lynn was not only participating in meetings, she was volunteering for presentations. She told me that the turning point came when she realized that her fear was actually worse than any actual negative outcome she experienced. The stories her mind was telling her about what would happen were far more frightening than what actually happened when she spoke up. This brings us to another crucial point. Most of our fears about communication are based on imagination rather than reality. Our minds are incredibly creative at coming up with worst-case scenarios. But when we actually test these fears against reality, we usually discover that they're not as likely or as devastating as we thought. Building resilience is also key to breaking through fear and doubt. Resilience in communication means developing the ability to bounce back from difficult interactions, to learn from mistakes without being crushed by them, and to maintain your sense of self-worth even when communication doesn't go perfectly. One way to build resilience is to reframe your relationship with mistakes. Instead of seeing mistakes as evidence that you're not good enough, try to see them as data. What can this mistake teach you? How can you use this information to improve? When you approach mistakes with curiosity rather than judgment, they become less frightening and more useful. Another important aspect of breaking through fear and doubt is developing what I call compassionate self-talk. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself, especially when communication doesn't go well. Would you speak to a good friend the way you speak to yourself? If not, it's time to become a better friend to yourself. Instead of harsh self-criticism, try supportive self-coaching. Instead of, I'm terrible at this, try, I'm learning, and that takes time. Instead of, everyone probably thinks I sound stupid, try, I did my best with the skills I have right now, and I can improve over time. The truth is, fear and self-doubt will probably never disappear completely, and that's okay. Confident communicators aren't people who never feel afraid or doubtful. They're people who have learned to feel those feelings and speak authentically anyway. They've learned to act with courage, which isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Building confidence through daily practice is where the real transformation happens. Confidence isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you develop day by day through intentional practice and positive experiences. The beautiful thing about building communication confidence is that you don't need special equipment, expensive classes, or perfect conditions. You just need daily life and the willingness to see every interaction as an opportunity to grow. Let's start with the mindset that makes daily practice possible. First, you need to embrace what I call micro-progress. This means celebrating small improvements and recognizing that tiny steps forward are still steps forward. Maybe today you spoke up in a meeting for just 30 seconds longer than usual. Maybe you asked a follow-up question in a conversation when you normally would have stayed silent. Maybe you shared an opinion when you typically just listen. These might seem like small things, but they're actually building blocks of greater confidence. The compound effect of daily practice is remarkable. Just like physical fitness, communication confidence builds gradually through consistent effort. Each positive interaction creates a small deposit in your confidence bank account. Each time you speak up and something neutral or positive happens, you're training your brain to see communication as safe and rewarding rather than dangerous and risky. One of the most effective daily practices is what I call intentional conversation. This means approaching at least one conversation each day with the specific intention of practicing confident communication. It doesn't have to be a long or important conversation. It could be chatting with a cashier, commenting in an online forum, calling a business to ask about their hours, or sharing your thoughts in a casual conversation with a friend. The key is intentionality. Instead of just letting conversations happen to you, you're actively choosing to engage. You're paying attention to how you feel before, during, and after the interaction. You're noticing what works well and what you'd like to improve next time. Another powerful daily practice is voice work. Many people don't realize how much their physical voice affects their confidence. When you speak with good posture, adequate volume, and clear articulation, you not only communicate more effectively, but you actually feel more confident. Your body and mind are connected in ways that can work for you or against you. Try this. Spend a few minutes each day practicing, speaking with what I call confident body language. Stand or sit up straight. Take deep breaths. Speak at a volume that fills the space you're in and articulate your words clearly. You can practice by reading aloud, recording yourself, speaking about something you care about, or even having conversations with yourself in the mirror. This might feel silly at first, but it's incredibly effective. When your body is in a confident posture, your mind follows. When your voice sounds strong and clear, you feel stronger, and clearer. This isn't fake it until you make it. This is aligning your physical presence with your inner confidence. Journaling can also be a powerful daily practice for building communication confidence. At the end of each day, spend a few minutes reflecting on your communication experiences. What went well? What challenged you? What did you learn? What would you like to try differently tomorrow? This practice helps you become more aware of your patterns and progress. It helps you see that you're actually communicating successfully far more often than you realize. Most of us have a negativity bias that makes us notice problems more than successes. Journaling helps balance this by consciously acknowledging your wins, both big and small. Here's a practice that many of my students find transformative: the daily appreciation practice. Each day, find something to genuinely appreciate about your communication. Maybe you expressed an idea clearly. Maybe you listened well to someone who needed to be heard. Maybe you asked a thoughtful question. Maybe you showed kindness in how you spoke to someone. This practice trains your brain to look for evidence of your communication competence rather than your shortcomings. Over time, this shifts your fundamental story about yourself as a communicator from "I'm not good at this" to "I'm growing and improving, and I have valuable things to contribute." Learning to celebrate progress is crucial. Most people only celebrate major achievements, but confident communicators learn to acknowledge incremental improvements. Did you maintain eye contact a little longer today? That's worth recognizing. Did you speak with slightly more clarity? That matters. Did you express disagreement respectfully when you usually avoid conflict? That's significant growth. The truth is, building confidence is like training for a marathon. You don't start by running 26 miles. You start by running to the end of the block, then around the block, then a mile. Each step prepares you for the next one. Each success builds the foundation for bigger successes. Daily practice also means learning to be patient with yourself. Some days, your confidence will feel strong. Other days, it might feel shaky. This is completely normal. Confidence isn't a constant state. It's something that fluctuates based on many factors: how well you slept, what's happening in your life, what challenges you're facing, how much you've been practicing. The goal isn't to feel confident every single day. The goal is to develop the skills and mindset that allow you to communicate effectively, even when you don't feel perfectly confident. The goal is to build a foundation of self-trust that says, even if I'm nervous, even if I make mistakes, I can handle this. I can communicate what matters to me. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every confident communicator was once afraid to speak up. The difference between those who develop confidence and those who don't isn't talent or natural ability. It's the willingness to practice daily, to be patient with the process, and to trust that small, consistent efforts lead to meaningful transformation over time. The power of authentic connection is something that can completely transform your experience of communication. When you understand that the goal of communication isn't to impress others or to prove how smart or capable you are, but rather to create genuine human connection, everything changes. Your nervousness decreases, your effectiveness increases, and your satisfaction with communication grows dramatically. Authentic connection starts with a fundamental shift in focus. Instead of being primarily concerned with how you're coming across, you become primarily interested in the person or people you're communicating with. Instead of monitoring your performance, you start paying attention to their needs, their interests, their responses. This shift is profoundly liberating because it takes the spotlight off your perceived inadequacies and puts it where it belongs on the relationship you're building. When you focus on connection, several beautiful things happen naturally. First, you become a better listener. When you're not busy worrying about what you're going to say next or how you sound, you can actually hear what others are saying. You can pick up on subtleties, emotions, and unspoken needs. This makes you a more effective communicator because you can respond to what's actually happening rather than what you imagined was happening. Second, you become more present. Presence is magnetic. When someone feels that you're truly with them, not distracted by your own internal chatter or external concerns, they feel valued and heard. This creates the foundation for trust, which is essential for meaningful communication. Let me tell you about Carlos, a software engineer who struggled with communication anxiety for years. He would avoid team meetings, rarely contributed to discussions, and felt increasingly isolated at work. When we started working together, his entire focus was on not making mistakes, not sounding stupid, not being judged. He was so preoccupied with these concerns that he couldn't engage authentically with his colleagues. We shifted his focus from self-protection to genuine interest in others. Instead of thinking, what if I say something wrong? He started thinking, what does this person need from this conversation? Instead of, I hope they don't notice my accent, he began thinking, how can I help solve this problem we're discussing? The transformation was remarkable. Within a few weeks, Carlos was not only participating in meetings, but his colleagues started coming to him individually for advice and collaboration. His technical skills hadn't changed, but his presence had completely transformed. He had learned the power of authentic connection. Authentic connection also requires vulnerability, which might seem counterintuitive when we're talking about building confidence. But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to be seen as you really are, rather than as you think you should be. When you're willing to admit that you don't understand something, when you're open about your learning process, when you show genuine emotion, you create space for others to do the same. This kind of vulnerability creates deeper, more meaningful relationships. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with humanity. They connect with struggle growth, authenticity, and courage. When you're willing to be real, others feel permission to be real too. And that's where true connection happens. Another aspect of authentic connection is learning to communicate with empathy. Empathy means trying to understand and feel what another person is experiencing. When you approach communication with empathy, you naturally become more patient, more kind, and more effective. You start to see conversation not as a competition or a performance, but as a collaborative effort to understand each other. Empathetic communication also means being sensitive to cultural differences, especially when you're communicating across languages and cultures. What seems direct and honest in one culture might feel rude in another. What feels respectfully indirect in one context might seem evasive in another. When you approach these differences with curiosity rather than judgment, you become a bridge builder rather than a barrier creator. Authentic connection doesn't mean agreeing with everyone or avoiding all conflict. In fact, confident communicators know how to disagree respectfully and address difficult topics with grace. They understand that healthy conflict, when handled well, can actually strengthen relationships rather than damage them. The key is to focus on the issue rather than the person, to listen as much as you speak, and to look for solutions rather than trying to prove who's right. One of the most powerful aspects of authentic connection is that it creates a positive feedback loop. When you communicate authentically, people respond more positively to you. When people respond positively, your confidence grows. When your confidence grows, you're able to be even more authentic. This upward spiral can transform not just your communication, but your entire life experience. I want you to think about the people in your life who make you feel most comfortable, most valued, most heard. What is it about how they communicate that creates that feeling? I'm willing to bet it's not their perfect grammar or their impressive vocabulary. It's probably their authenticity, their genuine interest in you, their ability to make you feel seen and understood. You have the ability to be that person for others. You have the capacity to create that feeling of connection and understanding. It doesn't require perfect language skills. It requires an open heart, genuine interest in others, and the courage to be yourself. Tools and strategies for confident communication are practical techniques that you can learn and apply immediately. These aren't complex theories or abstract concepts. They're concrete skills that confident communicators use every day, often without even thinking about them. Learning these tools can give you a roadmap for navigating any communication situation with greater ease and effectiveness. Let's start with preparation strategies. One of the biggest confidence boosters is feeling prepared for communication situations. This doesn't mean scripting every conversation, but it does mean thinking ahead about important interactions. If you have a meeting coming up, spend a few minutes beforehand considering what you want to contribute. If you're going to a social event, think about a few topics you could comfortably discuss. If you need to have a difficult conversation, consider the main points you want to make and how you want to approach the topic. Preparation also includes what I call emotional preparation. Before important communication situations, take a moment to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What do you need to feel more centered and confident? Maybe it's a few deep breaths. Maybe it's reminding yourself of your positive intentions. Maybe it's visualizing the conversation going well. Breathing techniques are incredibly powerful tools for confident communication. When we're nervous or stressed, our breathing becomes shallow, which can make our voice sound weak or shaky. Conscious breathing not only calms our nervous system, but also gives us better control over our voice. Practice breathing deeply into your belly rather than just your chest. Before speaking in challenging situations, take a moment to breathe deeply and ground yourself. Body language is another crucial tool. Your posture, eye contact, and gestures communicate as much as your words do. Stand or sit up straight, but not rigid. Make appropriate eye contact without staring. Use natural gestures that support your words. When your body language is confident, you feel more confident, and others perceive you as more confident too. Voice modulation is a skill that many people overlook, but it can dramatically impact how your communication is received. Practice varying your pace, volume, and tone appropriately for different situations. Slow down when you want to emphasize important points. Speak louder when you need to be heard in a group. Use tone to convey emotion and meaning beyond just your words. The power of the pause is something that confident communicators understand well. You don't have to fill every silence with words. Pausing gives you time to think, gives your listeners time to process what you've said, and can add emphasis to your points. When you feel rushed or pressured in conversation, remember that taking a moment to pause and collect your thoughts is a sign of confidence, not weakness. Active listening is perhaps one of the most important communication tools you can develop. This means listening not just to the words someone is saying, but to the emotions behind the words, the subtext, the things they're not saying. Active listening involves asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard, and showing genuine interest in understanding the other person's perspective. Question asking is an art that confident communicators master. Good questions show that you're engaged, help you gather information, and can guide conversations in productive directions. Practice asking open-ended questions that invite elaboration rather than just yes or no answers. Ask follow-up questions that show you're truly listening and interested in learning more. Learning to manage difficult moments in conversation is crucial for maintaining confidence. What do you do when you forget a word? When someone disagrees with you strongly? When you realize you've made a mistake? Confident communicators have strategies for these situations. They might say, "Let me think about how to express this clearly." Or, "I see your point, and here's another way to look at it." Or, "You're right, I misspoke. What I meant to say was." Storytelling is a powerful tool for connecting with others and making your communication more engaging. Humans are wired to respond to stories. When you can illustrate your points with brief, relevant stories or examples, you make your communication more memorable and impactful. Practice telling stories concisely with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Adaptability is crucial for confident communication. Every conversation is different, every audience is unique, and every situation has its own dynamics. Confident communicators learn to read the room and adjust their communication style accordingly. This might mean speaking more formally in professional settings, using more or less technical language, depending on your audience, or adjusting your energy level to match the situation. Learning to give and receive feedback gracefully is another important skill. When someone gives you feedback about your communication, try to receive it as information rather than criticism. When you need to give feedback to others, focus on specific behaviors rather than personal characteristics, and always lead with positive intentions. Technology can also be a valuable tool for building communication confidence. You can practice by recording yourself, speaking, participating in online discussion forums, or joining virtual conversation groups. Technology allows you to practice in low-stakes environments and to review and improve your communication skills. Finally, developing your own personal communication style is important. You don't need to communicate like anyone else. You need to find your authentic voice and learn to express it clearly and confidently. This means understanding your natural strengths, working with your personality rather than against it, and developing a style that feels genuine to you. Remember, these tools are most effective when they become natural habits, rather than techniques you have to consciously remember. Start by choosing one or two tools that resonate with you and practice them consistently until they become automatic. Then gradually add other tools to your communication toolkit. With time and practice, confident communication becomes not something you have to think about, but simply who you are. As we come to the end of our journey together today, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored about building unshakable confidence in communication. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding what true confidence really means to discovering practical tools you can use starting today. But more than anything, I hope you're beginning to see that confident communication isn't about being perfect or never feeling nervous. It's about being authentically yourself and trusting that your voice matters. We talked about how true confidence comes from self-acceptance presence and the willingness to be vulnerable. We explored why confidence matters more than perfection and how genuine conviction can move people far more than flawless grammar ever could. We delved into the psychology behind communication, confidence, understanding that our fears and doubts are normal human responses that we can learn to work with rather than be controlled by. We discuss breaking through fear and self-doubt, not by eliminating these feelings, but by developing the courage to act despite them. We explored how daily practice, small, consistent steps, and patience with yourself can build lasting confidence over time. We discovered the transformative power of authentic connection, how focusing on others rather than ourselves can paradoxically make us more confident and effective communicators. And we equipped ourselves with practical tools and strategies that can help us navigate any communication situation with greater ease and impact. But here's what I want you to remember most of all: you already have everything you need to be a confident communicator. You have a unique perspective, valuable experiences, and important things to say. Your accent doesn't diminish your wisdom. Your grammatical mistakes don't invalidate your ideas. Your nervousness doesn't disqualify your voice. Every day, you have opportunities to practice confident communication. Every conversation is a chance to connect authentically with another human being. Every interaction is an opportunity to share something meaningful, to learn something new, or to make someone feel heard and valued. These opportunities don't require perfect English. They require an open heart and the courage to be yourself. So I want to challenge you today. Choose one area where you want to build greater communication confidence. Maybe it's speaking up more in meetings. Maybe it's having more meaningful conversations with friends. Maybe it's expressing your opinions more clearly. Maybe it's simply believing that what you have to say matters. Start small. Choose one conversation this week where you'll practice being more authentically yourself. Notice what happens when you focus on connection rather than perfection. Pay attention to how it feels when you let your genuine personality shine through your words. I think you'll be surprised by how positively people respond to your authenticity. Remember that building confidence is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when you feel strong and days when you feel uncertain. That's perfectly normal and human. The goal isn't to feel confident every moment, but to develop the skills and mindset that allow you to communicate effectively, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Also remember that you're not alone in this journey. Every person you meet, including native speakers, has their own communication challenges and insecurities. Everyone is learning, growing, and doing their best to connect with others. When you approach communication with this understanding, it becomes less about judgment and more about compassion, both for yourself and others. I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I'm honored that you chose to invest it in your own growth and development. More than that, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the conversations you're going to have, the connections you're going to make, and the impact you're going to have on the world through your confident, authentic communication. If this episode has resonated with you, if you found something valuable in our conversation today, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions, or your victories. Let me know what you're working on and how it's going. Communication is about connection, and I'd love to connect with you. And if you know someone who could benefit from this message, someone who struggles with communication confidence, or who's on their own journey of finding their authentic voice, please share this episode with them. Sometimes, all it takes is hearing that you're not alone, that your struggles are normal, and that confident communication is possible for everyone. Until next time, remember this: your voice matters, your perspective is valuable, and the world needs what you have to offer. Trust yourself, be patient with your growth, and never stop believing in your ability to connect meaningfully with others. Keep practicing, keep growing, and keep communicating with confidence. This is English in Mind, and I'll see you in the next episode.